do it. So I asked the lovely people that follow me on Instagram, aka my friends. I don't have any subscribers that follow me on there. I asked them if they wanted to hear about my experience of moving overseas to London from Australia, all those sorts of details. But it's a comfy style video today. I've got my jumper on, I've got a nice warm coffee. It's raining outside, so pull up a chair and prepare yourself for maybe 10 boring minutes of me talking about my move to London. I want to preface this video by saying, instead of choosing to film yesterday, oh my god, I thought this was going to be easy. Oh my god. Oh no, I don't have a ruler or a hammer or a flathead screwdriver or a Phillips head. I decided to do it today where somebody is outside ripping up all of the road, and there's also the trains going every 3 seconds. So I'm very sorry about the noise disturbance, but I'm just gonna have to put up with it. Not to toot my own horn, but I did get a few questions. So I decided that I was going to move to London, I believe in 2018, so probably late 2018. The reason that I moved is because I met my boyfriend. Oh, insert a picture of him. I met him in Melbourne around August 2017. So by December, I kind of was like, okay, I've always wanted to live overseas. And I just thought when he goes back, which was going to be the following year, I'll go with him. So my plan was to go over to London with him. However, I knew that we weren't going to be living together or anything like that, which is what I wanted. I wanted the experience of living overseas to be my own personal experience. I didn't want to be living overseas just with him, not making any friends and branching out, which easily can happen when you're with your partner. It's just easy to stay in your comfort zone. So he was going to be going off to university anyway on the other side of the UK. The visa that I am on currently and the visa that I applied for is the, I'm gonna put it up here, the Tier 5 Youth Mobility Visa. So essentially that is created, I don't believe just for Australians, but for people to come to the UK for 2 years. It is a 2-year visa, no extension, sadly, because of coronavirus. And I will break down the cost for you, but that is the visa that I am on. I immediately started saving because it's expensive. Moving overseas is really, really expensive. I won't lie to you. Even thinking about this now, it's bringing back the trauma. I don't want to be misusing the word trauma, but essentially it was an incredibly stressful time for me, and I was working about 60 hours a week. So that's kind of what I mean when I say that. Saving to move here, and it was very stressful. I have my phone here for reference, by the way, because I've got a lot of notes on this so I don't leave anything out. Application process, I think they said it usually takes 8 weeks, maybe 5 weeks. I honestly don't know. Requirements for the visa, you need to have, I think it's £2,400 in savings. I saved $4,000. You also have to pay the $500 fee just to send off the application. You have to pay something called an IHS health surcharge. So essentially that covers you for any health related thing that you need in the UK, even if you don't work. Once you have all of that, you need to apply online, go through the UK visa website. You basically have to pay this health surcharge straight away, which is really scary because if they decline your application, you don't actually get that refunded. That installed anxiety and fear in me for weeks. All up, you have about 6,500, let's say. You pay the fee, you pay the IHS health surcharge, and then you send off your application. And when you do that, you need to pick a day to go to the application center essentially and sit for an interview. Again, I'm so sorry if this is boring. This is just for people that want to know. Skip this video if you're not interested. Okay, so then you go to the interview, right? You need to take all your paperwork, you need to take a print out of your application form. I'm moving my hands because I'm anxious, because I'm scared no one will watch this video. And then you also need to take a authorized bank statement, so you can obviously extract those from your net banking, that says that you have the amount that you have in your account. In the interview, they also took my passport, so they take that away and they submit that. Everything gets sent to Sydney. Then you go into another scary room, very scary by the way, and they take your biometrics, so they take your fingerprints, they take your signature, all that sort of stuff. So then if you are successful, the UK government have all your data to store. Okay, let's go to the next bit. This was boring. I'm going to break this video down as best as possible without ranting too much. Around like May, June, I started looking for jobs that were going to be available for start date of mid-August, early September. I don't have a degree, so I mean, I like working in the hospitality industry anyway, so that's kind of where I focused my applications essentially. And thankfully the job that I work at now got back to me June, I think, and they ended up asking me to come in for an interview the day after I arrived in the UK.
Can we please appreciate that after my job interview, I went sightseeing around London in the outfit?
Tip number 1, apply to jobs before you leave. I can't stress this enough. You want to have interviews set up when you get here so you don't have to panic about your bank account running out. It's very simple. That's just my tip. I will leave it at that. But apply to jobs before you leave. The minimum wage here is a lot lower than Australia. If you're coming over here, you need to be ready to adjust. Even people with degrees get paid a lot less than they do in Australia, which is fine, but the cost of living here is a lot higher. So bear that in mind, because I have nothing to hide. The wage that I am on is £19,990, which in Australia, I believe it sits around, I think, a bit less than $40,000. So bearing in mind that salary that I'm on, now let's talk about the most stressful but important part. Where you're going to live. Renting. Finding a room to rent. So maybe in Australia, people can afford to rent maybe a studio flat for themselves or a townhouse or something small, maybe have one other housemate. But over here, the rental prices is just... And bear in mind, you're living in London, not Melbourne, so of course it's going to cost more. I'm not an idiot, but it was a shock for me. I went on the website, which everybody uses, called Spare Room. They have basically all the rooms to rent. So you go on there, you search what kind of areas you're looking for. You're thinking, I don't know where to start. What I would say is if you have your job first, or you kind of have like a base camp, work from there. So for example, I work in central London. I worked my way from there, areas close by, places that wouldn't take me too long to commute. If you don't have a reference point, so you haven't found yourself a job yet and you're not studying, which is fine. If you don't have a job yet, don't worry. However, I wouldn't recommend going further out than zone 2, and I'll tell you why. I'm gonna put up on the screen the pricing per month depending on what zone you live in. I'm gonna put it here for you. You're going to be spending about £200 a month to commute or get to wherever you need. But if you're working in central London, don't move further out than zone 2. Am I okay? Gone are the days of living in Melbourne, having a Myki card and spending no more than $8 a day. The townhouse that I ended up moving into was £515 a month, bills included. The landlord never turned the heater on in winter and you could see your breath inside. But let me input a video of how small it was. You can see it here. It was truly tiny. It was freezing cold, and yeah, I was paying about $1,000 a month to live there, and I had 4 other housemates. Obviously I don't live there anymore. I had to move out of that hellhole, but now I live in this beautiful house and I pay $600 for this one. So I'm not as close with the housemates that I have here as I were in the last one, because the girls that I was living in the last one were amazing. People I live with now are couples in their 30s and 40s, so the contrast is very different. My back. Hang on, I need to take a stretch break. A lot of people asked me if I knew anyone over here before I left. It's kind of like yes and no. So I knew obviously my boyfriend has friends over here that I have like communicated through with Instagram before we left. They were super nice, really nice people. But I didn't really know anyone that was my own friend. I had to do that, which is a really fun process. I think that I personally would describe myself as an extroverted and very open and social person, but even then it is really hard to make friends when you're overseas, because unless you're at uni, obviously if you're at uni, I imagine it to be so much easier. You're not really, like, you're not a kid anymore. It's really hard to just be in social situations where you would meet people unless you force yourself. I'm really lucky with where I work. Mostly people in their 20s. Okay, I'm gonna get through the next few questions quickly for you so I'm not keeping you here all day. Another question that I got was I scared to move? Anyone that knows me knows that I have moved around a lot my entire life. I lived in a new house every year. I've been to a lot of different schools. I moved to Queensland, I moved back to Melbourne. So for me, I wasn't that scared. I was more excited, to be honest, and obviously I knew that my boyfriend was going with me, so that was comforting to know. I was a little bit scared when it came up to about July before I left, because I had like the sudden realization that, oh my god, what if I don't get a job? I think naturally it's a really scary situation to be in, and like obviously you're going to be scared. I mean, maybe the small percentage of people don't get scared for stuff like that, but it is really scary. You're packing up all your stuff, and I mean, I only brought over one suitcase with me, and you're leaving all your family and friends behind, but you have to remember that the experiences that you're going to gain and the life experience is so worth it. I think it's an amazing experience for anybody to move overseas, obviously not just London, anywhere. Remind yourself of that even through the hard times and when the anxiety sets in, because it probably will set in. And just know why you're doing it. Even though it's amazing and I love living over here, there are days where I miss my family a lot and my friends a lot, but you just have to remind yourself that eventually you're going to be back with them. My visa is up next August, sadly. I'm not even sure if I touched on everything. I don't think I did, to be honest. So if you have any more questions, this is my Instagram. Chuck me a DM at any point. So I'm just going to wrap it up. Next week is going to hopefully be a funnier, more lighthearted, less informative video. Want to stick around for that? You can subscribe. I hope that the people that did want to know about this did find this video slightly informative. I'm sure I've left out tons of information. Have a good week, everybody. I will see you next Friday, maybe.
I just did a video about moving to London. Next week is Halloween themed.